I've never met a criminal say, I have maybe once, that says, come arrest me, officer. I'm doing all kind of crimes here. Let me write down the crimes that I'm committing so I can go to prison for life. Nobody's going to do that.
There's actually the famous story of that guy who robbed a bank for $1. And then after he went and sat down waiting to get arrested because he had cancer. And he wanted to get health care from prison because he couldn't, otherwise he was going to die.
Yeah.
That's a crazy story.
I had a guy. We were in midnight shift, man. I'm just hanging out, just finished writing crazy case reports. And we're at the QT getting ready to get some donuts. This guy come up to us screaming, arrest me, take me to jail, help, arrest me. And we like, dude, stop. What is your problem? He pulls out a bag of weed because we said no, we're not arresting you. He pulls out a bag of weed. It's like, arrest me now. And we all looked at each other like, who's gonna write this case report? Right? So some people do it. They do it.
Why do you do it?
But Eric, he was high on drugs.
Yeah.
And he was schizophrenic. So he was afraid people were trying to kill him. So he wanted to go to jail to be safe. And he happened to have weed in his pocket, and he presented it. And
that dude needs to go to a doctor, man.
Yeah. I know. We took him to jail for a few reasons. I think he ended up having a warrant. He was in possession of marijuana, but he can't get help from jail. They will refer you to medical services if you have that problems in jail in Tucson. You
ever see the movie Watchmen?
I don't think so.
I love that movie. It was a much better graphic novel. But in the movie, it's basically about a bunch of superheroes, vigilantes. They wear masks.
They wear masks?
Yeah, it's like part of the premise is that they're not necessarily all super powered. They're just people who put on costumes and then fight, crime. And a law passes where you can't wear masks anymore. Like mask vigilantism is a crime. And so there's a scene in the movie, I think it's in the comic as well, where these two heroes are reminiscing about this one villain who's constantly like, arrest me. And they were like, we'd always ignore him. And then Rorschach, who's like this, he's one of the characters, he's a moral absolutist. And they're like, whatever happened to that guy? And then Night Owl goes, Rorschach dropped him down an elevator shaft. It's like, oh, yikes. Yeah, but that's what it reminds me of. The guy walking up to you being like, arrest me, here's drugs, take me in.
Yeah. Well, in the case of Eric Garner, like this is the thing that I think is a twofold thing here. Eric Garner shouldn't have been breaking the law. He had been arrested 40-something times before this one. Some of his arrests included selling Lucy. Some of them included resisting arrest. But you got to think about capitalism and freedoms. The store that's selling full-price cigarettes is getting gypped because you got this guy who refused to work for the store or get a real job is selling cigarettes for a cheaper price right in front of his business.
Did the store call the cops?
I don't know if they called the cops in this instance, but somebody called the cops because they showed up, not unless they were surveilling him.
Right.
Which these guys look like they were in plain clothes, but I don't know if they were PD. I don't know if that's the way they do PD in out there or not.
The problem I have is, when I see this video of the Eric Garner situation, and I'm like, it pisses me off. I see the George Floyd thing, it pisses me off. I see a lot of these videos that everybody gets pissed off, and in my initial reaction when these stories started, becoming prominent through social media, was sympathy and support for the activists. Then I started actually looking at the evidence. Then the George Floyd thing was basically a big punch in the gut for me. Because when the George Floyd thing happened, conservatives, liberals, moderates, everybody was pissed off.
Everybody. I think I was pretty upset.
Yeah. Yep. Everybody was coming out saying, nah, this was not good. We want justice. And here's what pissed me off. Then the evidence comes in. Then you're like, oh, geez, dude. We all jumped the gun a little bit, but here's the problem. When people who are like moderate, liberal, conservative, of any persuasion actually investigate and find out, oh man, we might have been wrong on this one, they come out and say it. Mm-hmm. When they think there's injustice, they call for justice. But these leftists, when they're wrong, they just stop talking about it. They just ignore it. It just disappears.
Yeah, and they have to. For me, I always maintained that I thought that what he did was dumb, and that guy caused a hailstorm that didn't need to happen. Definitely. Because George Floyd could have died, but he could have played to the camera. You're a white man on a black man, and he's saying, I can't breathe. He's crying for his mama, even if he's wrong, even if he's lying, even if he's playing. You play to the camera, dude, because the optics are just horrible here. Mm-hmm. And the dude is subdued. And if you need to jump on his neck again, you can. But to just sit there with your hands in your pockets and then he goes unconscious and you still don't do anything.
Right.
But I never said he will be found guilty in the court of law. And I think the reason why is because I know policing, and I reserve my opinions on the court of law because all the evidence hasn't been presented. And these things keep occurring. Like Breonna Taylor is another one.
Yep.
They keep saying that these people are are unjustifiably killed by police, creating an environment of hatred towards police, which is a big lie. It's all a farce. There are some people who were killed by police, and they didn't deserve to be killed by police. You know, I think Walter Scott was.
Was it Philando Castile?
I think Philando Castile was the only iffy one for me.
What happened with him?
He got shot. He was reaching for his identification, presumably, and he had a gun in his pocket. So to the officer, it looked like he's reaching for the gun.
Mm-hmm. It was a legal gun,
and he was in his car.
No. Let's talk about that. Oh. It wasn't legal
because he was smoking pot.
No, not at the time, because the toxicology results that came back in the court of law in his trial deemed that he was intoxicated, meaning that he had ingested marijuana at the time he got his permit, and therefore he illegally obtained a concealed carry permit.
Interesting.
And even while he was illegally in possession of a concealed carry permit, he was violating the law at the time of his death, because he was carrying a gun and he had illegal drugs in his possession. So he's in possession of illegal drugs while carrying a firearm. So he was all kind of messed up. But does that mean he needs to die? No, it doesn't. But what it speaks to is the questionable nature of what is the cop seeing and what is he doing. And he's reaching, he said, for his ID, but the cop sees a gun coming out his pocket. He should have had it in a holster. He should be responsible gun owner. And it probably wouldn't have been that iffy gray area.
This is where I get more little libertarian and all this stuff. I don't blame an individual cop for the most part. I understand individuals bear responsibility for the actions they take, for the orders they follow. But if we're asking cops to effectively, be neutral arbiters of the law, not saying they always are or typically are, but that's the idea. It's like, okay, we've all voted. Legislators came in, passed this law. Now we got to have people to enforce the law, so we have cops do it. That cop's not playing favorites. First of all, he doesn't want to get jammed up and have his time wasted by someone doing something dumb. And you're going to argue and claim, oh, I should be allowed to do this. I should be allowed to do this. Look, man, I know what the law is. You know what the law is. I'm doing what was asked of me by the community. The problem I see though is the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It doesn't say anything about whether or not you smoke pot or whatever. And I also think the war on drugs is wrong. I do think there's a fair assessment about wielding a gun under the influence for sure. So that's where things get iffy with Philando. But I'm looking at it like we got cops. The Floyd circumstance specifically. Floyd was freaking out because I think the cops caught him mid-drug deal. Maurice Lester Hall it was testified by Floyd's girlfriend. He was their dealer. They find this speedball. They see the blood in his system. I think what happened was it was a $20 counterfeit bill, not a big deal. But when the cops showed up, Floyd was like, it's like right now it's going down. This is serious charges.
Yeah.
So he freaks out. If it wasn't illegal to do drugs like that and you had a right, I don't think he would have freaked out. I don't think he was
driving. You can't do that while you're driving.
That's true.
That's
true.
This is the point that some people make, and it sounds good in theory, but in application it doesn't work. If you see how crazy he was. You see him in the store. You saw him. He was jumping and
struggling to stand up at some point.
How is he operating a motor vehicle? But then you also see that because of his drug habit, he's now using a counterfeit money to purchase things.
Yeah.
So he's in a sense of desperation. So if the counterfeit money doesn't work, what is he going to do next to get his high? What is he going to do next to get what he wants? He's going to start stealing things. He's going to start robbing people. He's going to start breaking other laws that affect other people. If you were smoking crack in your own house, nobody cares. I've never caught somebody smoking crack in their own house. I never, because I don't have
randomly break into his house. There he is.
There you go. He got crack everywhere. And you know what happens if I just kick his door in and get all the crack?
You get in trouble.
Well, first of all, I'm getting fired, and then none of that stuff is all this is pressed in court. He'll never go to jail for it.
Was a fruit of the poison tree.
Yeah. So
exclusionary rule.
I have already started down the path of doing illegal stuff. None of that's going to count. So it doesn't happen. So. But what I do see is that the reason why Philando Castile and these laws are in place that a person is in possession of a firearm with illegal substances is because of the drug game. It's because of drug dealing. It's because people are violent. All of these young people that are getting killed in the inner city are getting killed in this ring of drugs, gangs, gun violence, all of these things which police are trying to combat via the legislators. And so it's not a big deal to me because I don't carry illegal drugs on me while I'm carrying my firearm. I just don't do it. If I want to smoke weed, I just smoke at the house. And if I want to smoke it illegal, just smoke it at the house.
Legal in most places now.
It's legal in most places. Yeah. Arizona just passed a law that is legal in Arizona. I don't know if it's in effect yet, but they passed a law, which I think is counterproductive. But at the end of the day, I don't care. police don't care. They don't care. Like
about people doing drugs?
About people smoking weed.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's not a big deal.
I got these stories from the South Side where it's like, you know, my 16-year-old friends would be like hanging out skating at a park or whatever, and they're smoking pot, and they would see like a cop pull up, and they'd all freak out and like throw it, and the cops would laugh. And there was one story where apparently like my friends were at a park, they're smoking, they see a cop roll up, they freak out, throw the pipe, the cops laugh and go, "Yo, we don't care. We're looking for a guy who's like 5'10", he's wearing a brown shirt. You see him?" They're like, "No." He's like, "Later, kids," and they just drive off, and they're like,
yeah. I mean, the freak out that people have is probably the most dangerous because Floyd may have been able to beat the case in the court of law if he didn't freak out and be weird, it would have just been a counterfeit thing, and the store could choose not to prosecute. Now, I don't know if that's the way that they do it there, but in the state of Arizona, the store has to prosecute. Your crime against them doesn't matter.
Well, it's the state that brings charges.
Not in
Arizona.
So there's a time period in which crimes can be prosecuted and not, right? So if I go to a convenience store and I steal candy out of a convenience store and it's a shoplifting, I committed a crime. A store can say, I don't want to prosecute. Therefore, the police department will not arrest me because the store didn't want to prosecute. However, they can prosecute as long as it's within a year or so of that crime, or whatever the statute of limitations is for that particular crime. So even only thing that changes in the state of Arizona, and it's probably universal across the board, is domestic violence. So a woman getting her butt kicked can't say, "No, I don't want to prosecute my baby daddy today." No, the state picks up those charges. She has no choice.
Yeah.
Other crimes against persons that are not involved in domestic violence, people can decide not to prosecute.
Well, my understanding of that is that what's actually happening is the prosecutors say, without a witness, we wouldn't win. So it's always the state versus, the people versus the person.
Ultimately it's the state, but we make those determinations at the police level. So
if there's no complaint,
right,
what are you charging the person with?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but technically they make the decision. We still report it. We still follow up, and a detective can still follow up with the case, and they can change their mind. But at the moment, most people, they don't want to prosecute because George Floyd is a crackhead. I mean, he's a drug user, meth user. Yeah. He probably smoked crack too, I'm sure. But he uses drugs, and so when the cops showed up, maybe he would have come in and reconciled it, and the cops could have assisted him in doing that. But he panicked because he got his dope dealer who had a bag of drugs probably, and he panicked and swallowed dope. And I know people personally who sell drugs and who have done things like that, and that's a common occurrence. They swallow dope because if you swallow it, now you don't have it in your possession and you can't be charged with it.
They call it hooping. Yeah. That's what he said. That's what I've learned in the last few days. And he said it blatantly to the officer. I was hooping earlier.
But the way PBS reports that is it meant basketball.
Yeah, right. I was playing basketball.
Yeah, I mean,
that's probably why it's coded like that.
I'm sure he's not playing basketball as high as he was.
He's lying.
Yeah, or he's lying.
But in your experience, is hooping typically referred to swallowing drugs?
I never heard of the term hooping.
Yeah, me neither.
Nobody ever used that term. It's probably cultural. You said hooping for basketball or hooping for drugs?
For drugs. Either.
I've never heard hooping for drugs. I've heard hooping for basketball.
Exactly.
I've heard shooting hoops. I've never heard I was hooping.
I mean, I never heard a person admit that they swallowed.
Right.
They admitted that they swallowed drugs unless they wanted medical attention, and they will say, "Hey, man, I need the ambulance. I swallowed a."
I think he did want the ambulance.
He did, but the thing is, I think he went about it in a roundabout way because he was so high. Mm-hmm. He was trying to convey to them that I want medical attention because I don't want to go to jail. But he didn't want to go ahead and admit that I swallowed the dope that homeboy just sold me right here in front of the store.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. And if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.